Colleagues, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present at this event. Unfortunately, right now I'm on the plane flying, so I decided to record this video the night before, which is why it's a little bit dark in the background. You will be able to ask any questions regarding this presentation by sending me an email, which will be displayed on the last slide of this presentation. In addition, this presentation will be available for download as well as this video. So the topic of the presentation is comparison of PPP projects versus plain vanilla loans when it comes to energy efficiency investments in the municipal sector, with a particular focus on street lighting and with a case study of Kazakhstan. My name is Alexei Zakharov. I work for Energy Center Bratislava, a consultancy company in Slovakia, leading teams of international experts assisting clients of EBRD in Kazakhstan with implementation of street lighting modernization projects. I also worked for KfW as a consultancy lead on public buildings retrofits in 2018 in Ukraine, for example. But my main focus of the presentation right now is street lighting. The question is, why street lighting? There are humongous needs of modernization in various municipalities and in industry as well. But street lighting has become a testing ground for energy efficiency because of its simplicity, relatively small size investment-wise, and high visibility, which is good for city mayors. They can show the result of their tenure immediately. The problem of street lighting without modernization is clear. It's failing, insufficient coverage, operating, it is costly, or sometimes you cannot check whether municipal companies actually do the maintenance, and the mortality related to traffic fatalities is high because at night, most of the accidents occur at night. Due to poor visibility, people just get killed. 60% of all people killed on the roads across the globe are pedestrians. The cost of one life lost economically is about $1 million in Kazakhstan. And in the cities of 300,000 people, 2 to 6 people get killed every year. So we're talking about $2 to $6 million lost every year, although the cost of retrofit is itself $6 to sometimes $10 million. The solution is to find a high quality, experienced design, supply, and install contractors. Sometimes these contractors can also do operation and maintenance. Sometimes municipal companies do maintain lights. Sign a contract with them with KPIs, key performance indicators, and a payment mechanism, and then after the investment, resulting energy savings can completely repay the investment made. The beauty of this solution, if it's a PPP solution, is that the loan will not be on the balance sheet of the city, it will be on the balance sheet of the private party. The city can do their own things, borrow to do other priority investments, such as water purification projects, municipal solid waste improvement, public transport projects, etc. And the private party also earns money from the energy, from the difference between the energy the city used to pay and the energy now they pay, using high quality LED lights which look beautiful and deliver high quality lighting. Legally, it looks like an SPV is established, owned fully by the private party. The shares of this SPV are mortgaged with the bank that lends. Sometimes a leasing company comes into play and provides luminaires on a leasing arrangement, which is helpful because private parties don't need to buy from the outset luminaires, which cost a lot. About 50 to 60% of the cost of the project is in luminaires. Private parties installing luminaires and getting energy savings can repay from those energy savings equipment leased to them. So the leasing payments will be smaller than the energy savings. So the repayment profile will look like this. Prior to the project, the expenditure on energy and maintenance was this blue bar. Post-signing, the blue bar decreases because energy is spent less and less, while although of course, the energy cost is increasing over the years. And the green bar is the payment adjusted for inflation that the city continues to be making to private parties. So this difference between the blue bar and the green bar is where the repayment for the capital expenditure comes from. However, we don't see too many PPP projects in street lighting, and the reason is because oftentimes, not all street lights operated in the baseline period. Only 60% of them operated, or they were turned on off at night, and that artificially reduces the energy outlay, energy expenditure that the city had. So instead of 100 units of money paid for energy, they paid 60 or sometimes 40. And one thing is when you repay from 100 units the capex, and the other thing is when you repay from a significantly lower base. As a result, cities don't see interest to their infrastructure modernization needs from private parties, and they have to resort to plain vanilla borrowing. However, not everybody can borrow. If the energy expense initially was less than it should have been, then borrowing for modernization and hoping to repay the loan from energy savings won't work either. And that's why the situation is that only wealthy cities that had high energy expense in the baseline period and indeed paid for 95% of inefficient lights operating can borrow. Poor cities that turned off the lights at night to save money cannot borrow to modernize their systems. So even plain vanilla loans, again, are not for everybody. Besides, borrowing for street lighting on the balance sheet reduces the opportunities to borrow for other needs, like transportation projects or water utility projects, etc. Besides, usually IFIs always request that the cash flow servicing the loan is about 20% higher than it is necessary just to have a safety margin. That is called debt service coverage ratio. So this ratio is about 1.2 in this case, if it's 20% higher. PPP arrangements wouldn't require that 20% higher outlay. So cities overpay or at least over-allocate when they borrow as well. So this is a down. On this slide, you see examples of a loan scenario and a PPP or ASCO scenario. You see that on the upper part of the slide, the city has to allocate much more money than they used to pay for energy and maintenance, but then the duration of the loan is shorter. Indeed, IFIs don't lend for longer than usually 10 years. PPP project could be longer, and the repayment profile would be more gradual. They wouldn't need to overpay. The green parts of these lower bars, 2023, 2024, represent examples where cities want to pay more to, let's say, build new streetlights, but not necessarily modernize. They can do away with these green bars if they only want to modernize. So clearly there are benefits of PPP arrangement versus the loan arrangement, but lack of trust of private parties to long-term arrangements, the political cycle is only 5 years, contract nihilism, lack of understanding of contractual conditions, all impact and reduce the willingness of private parties to go into long-term arrangements for street lighting modernization with cities. As a result of lack of trust, cities have to do to make higher annual budget allocations and borrow on their balance sheet to do street lighting modernizations. As a result, they have fewer opportunities to invest elsewhere, or they continue to invest elsewhere, and street lighting takes a back burner and becomes a victim. It just doesn't get modernized. After all, it kind of works. And when people die from poor quality of water, it's a worse political disaster than a poorly operating street lighting. That's why, despite of the fact that there are wealthy cities that can borrow for street lighting modernization and that there are PPP investors, you see very few projects like that. So miraculous market transformations don't exist. It's a slow road ahead that is loitered with a lot of risks, such as currency depreciation risks of local currencies and high interest rates in local markets. And usually IFIs lend to private parties in Kazakhstan, for example, in local currency as well, and the interest rate is up to 14%. However, street lighting projects represented a good example of what could be done if the legal framework is improved, there is more trust, public transportation investments could be the next frontier. What is needed is continued donor focus on the on developing of legal frameworks and utilization of consultants that can bridge the gap of international expertise and case studies, and that can do and helps municipalities visit successful cases, and that have multi-year local expertise. On that note, I'm finishing the presentation. My contacts are here. Thank you very much. Again, sorry for not being able to be online with you. Hopefully we'll talk over email. Thank you.